world welcomes you to Delmont, Pennsylvania as we close out the 1995 AMA 250 Motocross Series.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Kernan, along with former motocross champion David Bailey. And, David, I asked you about strategy last time, just a little bit off as far as Jeremy goes. Now he leads by 47 points over Emig. So now I'm going to ask you again, put you on the spot. What do you do?
Well, I think you go out there and be a little bit careful. I think he could sit at the starting gate and let everyone take off, make it more exciting for the crowd. He only needs 3 points. However, I don't think that's Jeremy's style. He'll go out there and try to win this thing and make it exciting.
Points-wise, a lot of guys don't have a lot of movement that they can make up for today, but they do have something to prove, don't they?
Well, I think Damon Bradshaw has something to prove. You and I both thought that he would win a moto, or hope that he would anyways, and I know he wants to win one before the season's over, just like Jeff Stanton last year, who retired here, and I hope that he can.
Well, hopefully Damon will make it very exciting, as will all the riders. We're getting set for the start of Moto number 1. That's coming up in just a moment, but first, let's take a look at the track.
Well, this is one of Jeremy McGrath's favorite racetracks. Hard packed and fast. I mean, what you won't see on camera that well is how much elevation change there is here. A lot of off cambers, but mostly hard packed and fast.
How much of a difference does that elevation change make?
Well, it's a little bit. It's tough to get stopped for some of the corners, and it forces it to be off camber. So the berm is real important, and cutting out of that so you don't get caught in all that rough stuff on the exit is pretty important too.
Well, there's Jeremy McGrath. He goes for his first outdoor national title. He only needs to finish 18th or better. Back with the start right after this. We are getting set for the start of Moto number 1 here at Delmont, Pennsylvania, Steel City, USA National. And there's Jeff Emig, second in the points. And David, it's pretty simple. He's got to go out and win both motos today to even have a shot at catching Jeremy.
Right, and then Jeremy, as you see him there, trying to stay loose. All he's got to do is finish. So, I mean, we'd have to take a major problem for Jeff Emig to come out with any chances of the title. But the only thing he can really focus on is just trying to win the race, try to win one more before the season's over with.
Well, there you get a look at the start as they'll come up the hill. The riders are getting in the set position. You hear the motors revving, ready to drop the gate, and there they go. And John Dowd gets out in front of Jeremy McGrath, but will he hang on to the whole shot? No, he doesn't. Jeremy sweeps around the first turn, and McGrath will take over the point, and what a great start for McGrath. As you see, John Dowd has fallen into second. Oh, we've already got some riders down. A huge pileup here in the second turn.
I don't recognize any of the top guys in there. That was Doug Boyson. It looked like number 44 getting underway, but that's a pretty big pileup, and that's one of those off-camber corners that I talked about earlier that just forces everybody to go wide. If one person, especially when they're all bunched up like that, gets a lot out of control, it's just a domino effect.
Well, we said Jeremy McGrath is out front. Dowd is riding along in second. He's followed by Mike Kudrowski, and then a good start for James Dobb on that Honda of Troy motorcycle. And, oh, man, Jeff Emig might have been involved in that, you know, David. I just saw him come through the frame there, and it looked like Emig is way back in the pack, while Jeremy, who has the points lead, also has the lead here in Moto number 1. Remember, he only needs to finish 18th or better in the first moto to lock up the national title. Well, let's go down to the pits and check in with Art Ekman, who's with Jeff Emig's mechanic.
Well, Steve, one thing about a bad start off the gate, turn 1 here is not kind.
Yeah, he was a little late off the gate, and that just didn't help him. And then some guys went down just right here, and it seemed like he just got stuck in that. I'm not even sure where he's at, but he's a long way behind the leaders.
Man, you can just hear the disappointment in Steve Butler right there after Emig, who's done a great job of fighting his way back this season, but it's going to make it awfully tough for him to catch McGrath, isn't it?
Well, I think it would be impossible. You know, McGrath would have to fall a bunch of times or have a major problem, and the title, you know, there's no shot at the title, and now that, you know, all they could really hope for was try to win the race, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen either, so why even bother, you know? I think you'd rather just go home now.
Yeah, but you can't go home. You got to keep digging, and speaking of digging, John Dowd has really been coming on strong. He has got a, let's see, a 4th at Troy, 2/3 Unadilla and Millville, and then last time at Binghamton, he came away with his 2nd overall, and he's riding in the 2nd spot right now. He would love nothing better than to close out this season with an overall victory. And now back to the battle for 3rd place. Kudrowski has it, but look at James Dobb. He's trying a bunch of different lines, David, and oh, is he going to hang on? Not quite.
Well, I like the fact that he's trying different lines. Look at him, he just cuts back under the inside right there, and that's what's going to do it. He just set Mike up. He set him up about 4 turns ago, going outside, inside, and he forced Mike to start riding a little more defensive, and even though Dobb was having to take an alternate line, he still maintained a lot of speed through there, and it paid off for him. Now Larry Ward's caught up to this group, and he should be a real player here in a moment.
Well, of course, Larry Ward hoping to finish out on a strong note after the great Supercross season he had. A little bit of a disappointment here in the outdoors. But look, Dobb has caught John Dowd, and that could shape up to be a big battle for second place here in a moment. And you can see the separation there. Jeremy McGrath already pulled out to about a 3.5, 4-second lead.
Right, here's another look at the pass. Kedrowski taking what seems to be the most popular line, but gets caught up with some of that powder that got pushed wide there, and he had to let back off the throttle. But Dobb looked like he already pretty much had that pass made. He just set him up nice, carried a lot of speed through that corner, got on the gas a little earlier than Mike, and held the inside line. That was a good move.
Is this a track that lends itself to a lot of different lines?
I think so. I remember last year watching Jeff Stanton in his final ride, and he was square in every corner, and it seemed like there was a lot of lines available. And you know, a rider like Jeff or Dobb here, they're just being real creative and using the whole racetrack, and it does look like with the elevation changes and the big sweepers and stuff here, there's a lot of place to go. As you can see right there, all three of those guys had a different way around that left-hander, and that's pretty off camera. It's hard to tell from here, but you can see pretty much where there is a berm, there's always a couple, so a lot of places to go.
Well, once Dobb got around Mike Kedrowski, he has started to pull away. He's trying to reel in John Dowd. As we are in the early stages of Moto number 1, take a look at the top 10 on our Suzuki Field Summary and pick out your favorite rider. We'll be right back. Back at Delmont, and problems for Larry Brooks. Not been a good season for him. Of course, he had that wrist injury, had the operation, missed basically the entire year. Just came back a couple of races ago, and it looks like he's headed for the pit area.
Well, that's kind of like when you see a car in NASCAR being pushed back into the garage. Obviously, those are major problems, and it doesn't look like he's going to return.
Well, now the battle for second place starting to heat up as James Dobb slowly but surely catching John Dowd. And look at all the ground he makes up right there, David.
Well, he just carries a lot more speed into some of the corners. You can see he comes into this corner a little wider, which allows him to carry more speed through the corner. Right here, he's coming in on the outside. He'll probably cut back to the inside. So he's just working an inside and outside, the same way he did with Mike Kedrowski, and it worked for him there.
We could see a good aerial shot there from our helicopter camera to show you the different lines that these riders are trying. And look at Dobb. He swings out wide, tries to cut it back to the inside, trying to build up a little momentum. And look, he makes up about 4 or 5 bike lengths. He's right on the rear wheel of John Dowd. It looks like we're going to have maybe a pass for second place any moment now. And in the background, you can see the green Kawasaki and Mike Kedrowski. He may get up here and make it a 3-way battle for second place.
He could, perhaps. He's probably also learning what Dobb did to get past him. And right here, Dobb up the inside of John Dowd. I don't know what John Dowd did there, but he just didn't carry enough speed, and it was an easy pass.
Well, James Dobb, who's moved into second place. You know, he had a 20th place finish at Millville. That was along with the 22nd at Budds Creek overall, his worst 2 finishes of the year. But it was Schugle and Binghamton. He's come home with a couple of 4th overalls. And, you know, he'd love to. I keep talking about loving to close it out. All these guys want to close this season out on a high note, don't they? Because they got to make sure that they get that momentum set for Supercross season and for the Outdoor Nationals for next year.
Right. Well, you know, with McGrath out front riding the way he is today, they're going to have to shave about 2-3 seconds a lap off. So I think if they just cut one of the corners, maybe they have a shot at catching up to Jeremy. I don't think there's any other way, really. He's just unstoppable.
Well, let's take another look at it here. The pass Dobb passing Dowd for second.
Well, it just went up the inside. I mean, they're pretty much side by side, and when you're on the inside, you control the corner, and that's all that happened there. Dowd just let him have that inside, and there wasn't much he could do about it.
Well, that was a factory versus a Honda of Troy bike, a factory Yamaha, so that's got to be pretty impressive for those boys from Ohio, huh?
Well, I'm sure they're pleased, but you know, the real difference is being able to do that for the entire moto. There's a lot of guys that can ride a privateer motorcycle, or even the second-tier factory teams like we're talking about, the Nolene Sizzler and Pro Circuit, and of course Honda of Troy. These guys are all very competitive, and look at Larry Ward. He was second overall in the Supercross this season, so those bikes have come a long ways.
Well, right now, Dowd is having to think about, or is he thinking about right now, Mike Kedrowski, who is catching him fast. I wonder if Dowd's having a problem.
Well, he seemed to be going pretty fast in the beginning, and it's still fairly early in the moto. When you take off quick like that, and he was trying to hang on to Jeremy McGrath, wasn't able to run that pace, maybe his arm's pumped up. I've had that happen to me in the beginning, and everyone comes by you like a freight train, then you feel good at the end, and you're mad at yourself between motos.
Well, let's check back a little further back in the top 10. You see Jeff Emig. Remember, he had some problems with a bad start, caught up in that big pile up in the second turn that must have involved, I'm guessing, probably half of the field. He has worked his way into the top 10 now. I believe he's running about 8th or 9th. And, boy, he's got a lot of making up to do. I think he's going to have to settle pretty much for second place. I think it's a foregone conclusion with Jeremy McGrath out front that he's got the championship basically in his back pocket.
Yeah, I think so. And Emig, he still looks aggressive right here. It doesn't look like he's, you know, his spirit has been broken at all by going down in the first corner. He doesn't have a whole lot to race for right here. You know, I mean, I admire the fact that he's still charging hard, but you can see it's slightly dusty there further back in the pack. And I'd imagine he'll work through a lot of riders pretty quick because he's able to run such a lot faster pace, but then he's going to find a big opening up to the leaders, and I don't think he can close that gap.
Well, after he made that one pass, he moved from 8th to 7th place. And we look back, you talk about not giving up and riding aggressively, back to Millville, when the bike was basically, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it was not destroyed, but it was unrideable. He still finished the moto. Yeah, he finished out of the points, finished 21st, but that showed a lot of drive, didn't it?
That impressed me a lot. You know, this is his first season on a 250, and you know, it just looks like, actually it looks like he cares a little bit more about it. He's trying even harder than Jeremy did last year in his first season on the 250, but Jeremy did so well indoors that I don't think it mattered too much. He just wanted to get the experience, and Emig has been a real challenge so far.
Well, take a look at the top 10 on our Suzuki Field summary. We're nearing the midway point of Moto number 1 here at Delmont. Back after this. And a lot of fans excited that Jeff Stanton is here this weekend to watch his Honda teammates, I guess you could still call them, go for the championship. And now we've got a battle shaping up for second place. And look at that. Look at Dowd trying to get around Dobb now. I wonder if Dobb slowed down. Dowd sweeps around and takes over that second spot for now.
Well, Dobb left him a little space right there, and Dowd rode right through it. He muscled his way in there, and it looked like Dobb got a little squirrely having to ride over those ruts. So now we're back to square one, back to it looks like a replay right here of the same corner a few laps before where Dowd was holding off Dobb. Dobb trying to go inside and outside, still using the same lines. Kedrowski back there checking it all out. Maybe he'll be able to use them against him later in the race.
And a little further back would be Larry Ward, who's holding down the 5th spot. You see him just coming into the picture there. But Dowd, well, I thought he had slowed down, and then now, well, maybe he just conserved himself for the second half, because we are in the second half of this first moto.
Right, and also I mentioned before that possibly John Dowd's arms may have pumped up, and like I said, that starts to get a little better later in the race, and maybe he's starting to feel more relaxed, and he's obviously riding much faster. That could be it.
Well, you see a lot of fans scattered around the course, and 12,000 on hand. I believe that's a record. Go a little further back in the pack. There's Phil Lawrence, who's battling for, well, he's got something on the line today. Not only the $500 bonus from Skull and Camel that the top finishing privateers get, but also the year-end bonus, $5,000. Now, we talked about $500 not being a whole lot, but as a privateer, you get $5,000 chunk of change at the end of the year. That gets you set up pretty good for next year, doesn't it?
Well, it's nice. You know, it's expensive for these guys to do this on their own, and $5,000 is good for anybody. I don't care how much money you have. $5,000 looks good, and those $500 per race, those add up too. He's won quite a few of those.
Yes, he has. In fact, he won the last one out at Binghamton, so he'd be making it 2 in a row today, and if he can win it today, he would also take home that year-end bonus. Checking out now at the 4th spot, Mike Kedrowski, and he's trying now to chase down Dobb. And a lot of talk in the pit areas, David, about Kedrowski. This might be his final race.
Well, he doesn't have a lot left to prove. The only title he's never won is the Supercross, and he's been out there a long time. People may forget, but he came through the amateur ranks the same time as Damon Bradshaw. They had great battles in the amateurs, and they came up in the pro ranks together and diced it with each other in the 125 title and 125 Supercross East. He makes the pass right there up the hill on Dobb, and he doesn't look like he's slowing down, but there's speculation what's Kawasaki going to do with him, and if he was to lose a factory ride, you know, would he go to for instance, a Honda of Troy or something else? And I kind of don't think so. Here's another look at the pass. It's a little better rhythm up that uphill, and if you lose that rhythm, you start touching the tops of those jumps like Dobb did there, lost a lot of speed, and handed it over to Kedrowski.
He still has the tools to be competitive and to win another championship outdoors, doesn't he?
I think so. He's very fast outdoors, and he's still the master of Daytona, 3 in a row.
Yeah. This is true. Right now, he has moved into the 3rd spot. He will try and hunt down John Dowd, who is just trying to keep pace with Jeremy McGrath. And McGrath out in front. And, well, I tell you, this guy, I just am becoming more and more impressed. I knew they made a big hype about how he was getting in shape for the outdoor. I thought, yeah, he'll start out the year, but then he'll start to wilt toward the end of the year. And he has done anything but that. In fact, it almost looks like he has gotten stronger as this year has gone on.
That's what I was just going to say. I think he's gotten stronger, and that strength comes from confidence, and when things are going good, you know, it just snowballs. It just gets better and better and better, and when things are going bad, as they have for Jeff Emig today, just seems to be getting worse. Now, he's moved up quite a bit. Now he's challenging Phil Lawrence here, who's running...
in about the 6th spot, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
Yeah, Jeff Emig. Well, now, yeah, Jeff takes over that spot. He'll be in the 6th place. You have to confuse it. We don't have a computerized scoring screen here in the booth with us to check all this stuff out. But Emig, who was running 7th, finally chased down Lawrence and moves into the 6th spot. So he is looking to salvage at least a top 5 finish in Moto number 1, and that would still leave him set up for a chance at the overall if Jeremy decided after clinching the championship in Moto number 1 that he didn't want to compete in Moto number 2.
Yeah. I don't think there's a whole lot he can do about it. Just try to ride good, and just to know that he went out there and gave it his best is about all he can do today.
Well, right now, Emig, to get that 5th spot, would have to catch the number 11 Yamaha of Larry Ward. He is holding down the 5th spot right now. We will be back with the finish when we return to Delmont, Pennsylvania, as you take a look at the top 10 on our Suzuki Field Summary. We're just getting set to wrap up Moto number 1, the 23rd Moto of the Outdoor National Series in 1995. James Dobb got off to a really good start. Remember, he got around John Dowd, took over 2nd place, and rode there for most of the first half of this Moto. But since then, he has faded back into the 4th spot, and he has to worry now about Larry Ward catching him and taking over that position.
And Larry's coming hard. He's definitely caught him, and we saw Dobb make a mistake coming out of that corner, that little double jump, unable to do it. And those are the little mistakes that cost him late in the race. That's the reason why he can't run up front the entire Moto, which is something I mentioned earlier. Maybe that is a little bit to do with the bike. The suspension just isn't quite up to snuff with the factory guys, but Larry Ward's riding similar type equipment, and he's catching them. So I think Dobb maybe is just starting to make mistakes.
Well, Larry Ward, who had a pretty disappointing run at Binghamton, he finished a disappointing 12th there. He's had a couple 4ths and 5ths throughout the year, but it hadn't been the kind of outdoor season that he would have liked to have had. But nonetheless, he is trying to close out here with the top 5 overall here at Delmont. You know, I don't think you should allow Jeremy McGrath to see your Honda riding tips, because it'll just make him even better than he is, and I can't imagine him being much better. Well, we're 1 lap away from crowning the 1995 AMA 250cc Outdoor National Champion. Jeremy McGrath is the leader, the points leader of the Moto. He's won just about everything this year, 10 out of 22 Motos. This would make it 11 out of 23.
Well, he's shooting close to 50% now, and that's pretty much a Moto every race, you know, if you look at it, and that's pretty dominant. And, you know, as the season began, I think there was plenty of competition, and that was pretty impressive. Now there's less riders out. In fact, I think I'm going to duct tape my feet to the pegs and go. I think I might be able to finish in the top 5. Everyone's missing. It's not Jeremy's fault. He's riding fantastic, and what's he supposed to do, you know? But I tend to look at the last half of the season and realize that Henry's not there, Albertine's not there, Bradshaw's he's not here at this race. You know, there's a lot of people missing, and that's going to make his job easier. But if they were there, I think he'd still be tough.
Yeah, I started to say you can't take anything away from him just because these other guys had some problems. Because watching him ride, you know, yeah, LaRocco came back. He still rode competitively with LaRocco, and actually rode better. Of course, LaRocco was trying to ride himself back into shape before he re-injured that knee. And I don't know. It's just tough to say. I know a lot of people have complained that we've been a little bit too tough on Jeremy this year. And Jeremy's probably been one of those who might have had a few complaints with what we've said. But like I said earlier, he's been very, very impressive. You know, this year his worst overall finish was his 6th at Hangtown.
Well, yeah, that's a race where he was sick. And I think in one moto his helmet strap came undone and his helmet was floating around on his head. So, I mean, when you have a day like that and you still wind up 6th, and I remember he led the 2nd moto for quite a while. He got the whole shot, and you know, if that's one bad race, that's not very bad. I mean, look at Emig's worst race, and he's going to end up 2nd. So, you know,
Oh, look at that.
obviously very confident.
Got another question for you. All right. Another Supercross title. He wins the outdoor title in dominating fashion. Is he going to have too much confidence next year?
Well, he's going to, I don't think it's, I'd rather have too much confidence than not enough, put it that way. And I think Jeremy's too smart to let anything go to his head and affect the outcome of next year. He knows what he wants. He's got the intimidation factor. I mean, every time somebody gets on the racetrack or even lines up next to him, they know Jeremy's going to be a real threat. Doesn't matter if it's raining or he's proved himself in every kind of condition, and I think that's just going to make him stronger next year. And I don't think Honda or his mechanic Skip Norfolk would let him get cocky and turn that into a real problem.
Well, I guess we could call him Intimidator number 2, and that's only fitting because look at his number plate for this year, 3. Of course, the Intimidator I'm talking about is from NASCAR. Dale Earnhardt drives the number 3. McGrath, the number 3 on the outdoor series this year. That will be changed here in, probably about 30, 40 seconds. Raises that left hand as he will lay claim to that number 1 plate for 1996. McGrath just on cruise control right now. It is almost in the history books as Jeremy stands up, comes around, the checkered flag is out. Jeremy McGrath has won Moto number 1 here at Delmont, and quite a moment as he also wraps up the 1995 AMA 250 Outdoor National title. And everybody from Honda gathered around congratulating McGrath. And I thought he might be celebrating a little bit more, but you got to be sure that Jeremy's really happy. Dowd comes home second, followed by Kudrowski, Dobb, and Larry Ward. And rounding out the top 10, Emig manages a 6th place finish. Let's check in with Art Ekman, who's with the champ.
Jeremy's dad coming in to congratulate him on winning the number 1 plate, of course. And Jeremy, in light of the criticism during your wins of Supercross titles that you weren't an outdoors rider, in that light, is this maybe one of the sweetest victories of a championship that you can remember?
Well, I know I definitely had to work hard for it. Supercross seems to come a little bit easier for me, and Nationals is something we really had to work at. You know, it's not just a stiff suspension, good bike package, you know, like it is in Supercross with little talent. Outdoor Nationals takes a lot of time testing, and the bikes, they got to be prepared every week, over and over again, and you know, it's just a complete team that takes a whole effort. I finally put my mind to it, and I think it just helped everyone else work so much harder.
Got a little smile on that tummy already?
Yeah, it's nice. I still got another moto to go, but
what do you plan to do in that moto?
Well, I plan to win the next moto. That's my goal. I want to go out and try and do 1-1 again like I did last week. I know it'll probably be a little bit tough. I don't know what happened in that moto with Emig or anything, but next moto, you know, hopefully get a good start and be out in front.
Did you have to make it look so easy?
Well, I think my bike, 1-800 Collect, Fox, you know, Honda and Showa, they put a great package together, and my bike just handles so good, so they make it look easy. They make it easy for me to make it look easy.
Congratulations on a great season.
Thanks a lot.
Well, it was a great season for Jeremy McGrath. Kind of a disappointing season for Mike Kudrowski, although he does come home in the 3rd spot in Moto number 1. He is standing by with Art.
Now, Mike, in the heat of the day, how'd you feel out there taking the 3rd place?
I felt pretty good. The track's really slippery and dusty, and it's hard to ride when you're behind somebody, and you know, kind of maybe rode a little bit cautious because of dust and stuff. Dowd was in front of me, and it was real dusty. I couldn't see my lines. I was making some mistakes, and once I kind of backed off a little bit, I rode a lot smoother and kind of conserved energy and be ready for the next moto.
Mike, have you made a decision about next year? The rumors are hot and heavy about you wanting to retire a little bit.
Yeah, I think I will be retiring, and I'll be doing some consulting work for Kawasaki and stuff, and you know, helping out the other riders coming up.
Well, it's been a fantastic, great career, and nice 3rd place finish here.
Yeah, it was a good race here. You know, I had a good start and everything, and you know, I didn't want to announce I was retiring. I didn't want a farewell tour thing and all that, and I just wanted to quit and get out of it, and you know, I'll see the fans around.
Surprise announcement there for Art Ekman. Good job, Art. We'll talk more about Kudrowski because right now we have to pause to bring you these messages. We'll be right back. Back at Delmont, Pennsylvania, Art Ekman, David Bailey, and John Kernan. We're getting set for the start of Moto number 2. Of course, Jeremy McGrath One Moto1 to lock up the championship. Art Ekman takes a closer look at McGrath's success story in '95.
Jeremy McGrath brought to this year's Outdoor Nationals the credentials of a Supercross living legend. But he entered the season on a mission to prove to those doubters who questioned his overall greatness, saying the outdoors just isn't his thing.
Yeah, I've proved everyone wrong. Everyone always doubts me, and you know, I like to come out and ride and put in a good showing, and it makes it all that much more sweeter when I win the first national. Now it's got all these guys thinking, and it's got me and my trainer, Gary Semix, on top of the world.
In Supercross, McGrath brought innovations that changed the way riders looked at tracks, and he altered their jumping styles. After 3 straight titles in record time, McGrath revolutionized the sport. But in motocross, it was a different story. He had to adjust to others' proven techniques and styles.
In Supercross, I can hit the lines, hit everything perfect most of the time. And in outdoor, I was trying to take the lines that weren't so rough, or trying to take lines that no one else was taking, and that's the wrong approach for the outdoor series, you know. I mean, out here it's basically you got to hit the good line, the fast line, even if it's rough, and you got to just hang it out. I've learned a lot this year by watching Doug Henry and Jeff Emig and Albertine and some of these guys' lines.
A lot's been said about his training and getting physically ready for the more rugged of the seasons. But it's been his mental approach and ability to learn from others that's enabled him to turn the corner in motocross.
I've tried to learn and tried to watch the other guys, and like last week at Ohio, I hole shot and it was muddy and I crashed, and then I got up and I learned for a while. If there's a time when I ever, you know, I'm not learning anything or not having any fun, then that's the time probably when to back it off and play the second role in my career. That's the one where you're coming off the plateau.
Whether it's an inner desire to be amongst the Hall of Famers or contract motivated, McGrath has proven his point. All great athletes have God-given talent, but it's been those who are open to learning and sacrifice who have the shot at being in a class by themselves.
Thank you, Art. A very nice job on that nice Jeremy McGrath piece. And you can see Jeremy on the left side next to John Dowd. We're getting set to drop the gates here on Moto number 2, the 24th and final Moto of 1995. And let's see who comes out. It looks like McGrath, who's gotten possibly the whole shot. No, look at Emig on the on the outside, but McGrath goes on the inside, takes Emig wide, and takes over the point. This guy just doesn't give up. You know what he's got on his mind now, David? He wants to go 12 out of 24. A Moto win average for every event of the year.
Well, it wouldn't be surprising to know that that was his goal. I mean, I have no idea, but this guy wants to dominate everything. He wants to win the most Supercrosses ever. He probably wants to win the most Nationals now that it's coming easy to him, and I wouldn't put it past him.
Well, at 23 years old, I'm telling you what, he's still got at least a good, 2-3 years left in this motocross business?
Well, unfortunately, at about 25, you're over the hill in motocross, so he better get it done the next couple of years. Stanton was, I think, 25 last year, so Jeremy's approaching that age. However, he still seems pretty young, and I'm sure he'll do the smart thing in his career and not drag it out too long.
Well, how about Kudrowski? We saw him a little bit further back in the pack, that surprise announcement. He's one of those guys who's over 25, and he's talking about retiring. Well, actually told Art he was going to retire for next year. I don't know. I have a hard time believing that. I'll believe that whenever he's not out there in January for the first Supercross.
Look how awesome Jeremy is, getting up that uphill, clearing all those doubles perfectly, using his body weight, some of that Supercross technique stuff. I know I always allude to that, but that's where he's good, and he's already starting to open up a small lead over Emig, and that's probably pretty discouraging.
Well, Jeff Emig's got to be happy to be riding along in the second spot as we are in the early stages of Moto number 2. Take a look at our Honda field summary. Welcome back to Steel City USA National, Delmont, Pennsylvania. Art Ekman down in the pits. David Bailey and John Kernan up here as Larry Ward is trying to chase down a local boy, Mike Jones, who's riding along in the 4th spot here in the second Moto, and that's quite a good showing for him.
Well, Mike's capable of running up front. I've seen him do it before. He's not real consistent up there, but he can get a good start now and then and give these factory guys a problem. Right here, Larry Ward's trying everything, and it appears that Mike's holding him up a little bit, but he's not intentionally blocking him. He's just going as fast as he can and racing. You know, that's all he can really hope for. If Larry's so good, then pass me, you know, but I'm not going to get out of the way.
That's a great attitude. That's the kind of attitude you should have in anything. Look at Ward try and make a move on the inside. Jones holds him off momentarily, but Ward finally gets on the gas, on the throttle, and moves around into that 4th spot.
And I would think that Mike Jones, that is, would know how to get around this racetrack pretty good. He is pretty local, and I don't know how often he rides this track during the season other than just the National, but I think he's pretty comfortable with the soil. I know that when I was in Virginia riding anywhere back east on that similar type of soil, I could just tell by looking at it where it was slippery, where there was good traction, and what would happen to the lines between motos.
Well, look at Kevin Crine as he tries to catch Mike Jones for the 5th spot. And the reason we're back here with this battle right here with our helicopter shot is the helicopter cannot fly fast enough to catch up to Jeremy McGrath, right?
Maybe. It wouldn't surprise me. You'd have to cut the track.
Hey, look at John Dowd. He got off to not too great a start. He's back in what looks to be about the 7th place. Crine has gotten around Jones, and Dowd now moves around. Dowd will go from 7th to 6th as Mike Jones fades back just a little bit. But what a ride for Kevin Crine up in the top 5.
Good ride. Getting a little sideways coming down the hill. You can see where they water the track in spots, and it was just slick. And then Dowd came smoking around the outside, made that pass, used the whole racetrack. So he's on the gas right now, having to make up for kind of a lousy start.
Well, look at Kevin Crine. Crine's one of these guys that you really a true privateer, I guess you might say. But he's top 20 in the points. In fact, he sits 14th in the points and tied actually for 13th with Cliff Palmer as we came into here. So I guess that's something to write home about, isn't it?
Well, it's
top 15 in the points, top 13.
Yeah, better than 16th or 20th. You know, I mean, it's not top 10, and when you're a privateer, you want the top 10 so bad, and it's tough to do week in and week out. Lawrence has done a pretty good job of getting in there, but I remember riding as a privateer. Anytime you can dice it with these guys, you know, occasionally the good guys don't get off the line that good, and you get to ride with them a little while, and that's your only shot you're going to do it, because it's not that likely to be a run top 3 and dice with those guys, and you learn a lot just in a lap or two, just watching what they do, the lines they choose, and how hard they get on the gas. There's a lot of little things you can pick up like that in just a 30 seconds or a minute.
What is it that makes one rider so much better than another? Can you put any one, can you finger one thing?
I think it's just intelligence, really. I mean, Jeremy is a very smart rider. He's smart around the racetrack. I don't know Jeremy real good away from the races. As Larry Ward works his way past Doug Dubach right here, I think Jeremy around the races, though, is just very intelligent. He knows how to race, when to push, when to take it easy, how to conserve his energy, how to set up the motorcycle, how to communicate with the rest of the team to make the best package, and how to intimidate, how not to be intimidated. It's all those things that make you good. There's a lot of riders that can ride fantastic and probably just as fast as Jeremy for a lap or two, but I think it's something going on inside their brain that allows Jeremy to hold the advantage at the end of the race.
What about the guys who aren't quite up to McGrath's level but still better than everybody else?
I think it's just experience and conditioning. They just know they can ride a certain level and a certain amount of natural talent. But to really excel beyond that, you got to have something really bright going on inside your head.
Well, I don't think you could argue that Mike Kudrowski, one of the smartest and best riders on the circuit, he's fighting his way through the pack right now after a 3rd place finish in Moto number 1, and then making that surprise announcement about retirement to Art Ekman, and Art has more on that.
Well, John, many of us are still in a small state of shock here in the 2nd Moto after Mike Kudrowski, upon completion of Moto number 1, announced his retirement. This would be his last race as an active rider. He will be with Kawasaki as a consultant. With us right now is mechanic Brian Lennis. And Brian, what a great career for Mike Kudrowski, and he goes out in a very similar way of his personality. He doesn't want to make a big show of it.
No, he's been bickering back and forth for the last 3 months to retire or not, and just the way things have been going, he felt that it would be better, and he's discussed it with his business manager and his family and myself over that time, and so he felt it would be better, and Kawasaki has given him a position where he'll be involved with the team, and he'll be out there with us next year, so it'll be a real good thing for him.
Well, I just can't imagine. I mean, yeah, he is over 25, and that's ancient in terms of motocross. But, I wonder if we might see him racing something else. Earlier this year at Gainesville, he told me that he wanted to be like Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt drives a stock car. Maybe I can hook Mike up and start his road to stardom on the NASCAR circuit.
It wouldn't surprise me. There's a lot of guys that want to race cars when they're finished and that are racing cars. I know Jeremy's gone around and tested a few, and, Kudrowski's already flown with a Thunderbird, so I guess motocross would be pretty boring after that.
Well, we are nearing the middle stages of Moto number 2 here at Del Monte. Take a look at the top 10 on our Honda Field Summary and pick out your favorite rider. It's McGrath atop the leaderboard, followed by Jeff Emig. Back with more after this. ESPN Speed World welcomes you back to the Steel City National as we put a period on the 1995 AMA 250 outdoor motocross season. Jeremy McGrath wrapped up the national championship in Moto number 1, and you would think he'd take it easy on the field, but no. He's out there leading Jeff Emig in Moto number 2, and John Dowd is trying to work his way through the field. Dowd, of course, finished in second in Moto number 1. There you get a good look at Jeremy, who's kind of pulled away from Jeff Emig. Let's check in with Art Ekman.
Skip, it's not unusual to see Jeremy with such a lead, but to have Jeff Emig also, along with Jeremy, so far ahead of the rest of the pack.
Yeah, you know, it's a far cry from what we had the first 2 or 3 nationals when, you know, you could throw a blanket over the top 6 guys. I guess when it comes down to crunch time, you know, the good guys are going to shine, and when it comes time to grunt, those are the 2 guys that have been doing it lately. And yeah, they're just they're way ahead of the rest of the field right now.
Well, they're definitely way ahead of the field, but I think the riders that are missing from the show are the riders that sort of fill in that gap, and you know, that being all the other factory guys we talked about that are missing from this. And look at this little exchange here with Ward and Dow. These guys scrapping, riding as hard as they can in the final moto of the year for position. Larry Ward trying to just finish off the season with something good anyway. It's been pretty frustrating outdoors for him after having such a successful Supercross season.
Well, right now Dowd holds down the 3rd spot. Larry Ward wants to get around him, as Ward did have that control of that position, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes, you know, you get down to the end of the season, the words don't come out quite as freely as, you know, it's like you get arm pump easily.
Lip pump.
Yeah, lip pump. But right now we go back to take a look at 47 as Kevin Krein. He's followed by Kyle Lewis. This is a battle for the 7th spot. Krein has it right now, and Kyle Lewis trying to work his way up into that position. A lot of good racing going on all over this track. Takes about 3 minutes for a lap. And look at Kyle. He just motors on by. That was, I guess, outpowered him, huh?
Well, he outpowered him. He also stayed sitting down on the seat when he came up that first little set of doubles there. It's like stair steps all the way up that hill. And if you miss one, you really lose your momentum. And he stayed sitting down, compressed that suspension, and got a little extra lift to get over that clean. And once you get the drive off the backside of the jumps, it's easy to make a pass. And that's the place on the racetrack where McGrath really shines. He goes up there even faster than Lewis. And McGrath is gone. I think Emig is, and there he is there. He's already dropped off the pace. You can see he's looking around. He's not even looking where he's going. He's got a friend or somebody standing nearby the racetrack there, and just probably rather have this moto over with and get home and think he's riding the Trophy to Nations on the 250 for us in Czechoslovakia. So he's probably thinking ahead to that, where Jeremy has really nothing to lose by going out and taking a few chances and putting on a show for the crowd.
How do you think we're set up for that competition?
Well, a lot of people are surprised to see Ryan Hughes on a 500. I think personally that Ryan's going to do fantastic on a 500. He rides excellent on a 250. And the 500, I think, will humble him even a little more, and he'll ride actually probably pretty smooth. But he's going to have a lot of competition in that class. So I think Lamson is looking good. He just won the title here today on the 125. He would have to be a favorite. Emig's got to be a favorite for the 250, and he's been there quite a few times. So I think we're looking good.
All right, well, hopefully the U.S. can pull that one out, sending over a good crop of riders over across the pond, as they would say. Jeremy McGrath continues to lead Moto number 2 as you check out the top 10 on our Honda Field Summary. We will be back at Del Monte after this. Getting set to put the final period on the 1995 AMA 250 outdoor motocross season. Jeremy McGrath taking the white flag. He is on a final lap, about 3 minutes away from drawing the curtain closed. And what a fine way to wind up the season. This, if he can hang on here and Emig doesn't catch him, if Jeremy doesn't dump it, that's going to be 12 out of 24 moto wins.
Pretty impressive. You know, it's definitely 50%. We talked about that the first moto. He was close to it, and that's almost well, actually it is. It's a moto every week, and with that kind of results, you can just about DNF and still have a shot at the title. And you can bet that going out strong here today, like LaRocco did last year to win his title. LaRocco, of all people, the whole shot, both motos, win wire to wire, both motos, and take the title. Same thing Jeremy's done here today.
And this kid in the off-season likes to have his fun, and you can bet the party's going to begin as soon as this moto's over.
Wonder if we'll get invited.
No.
I doubt it.
No, it's exclusive, family and friends, and maybe not even family after at a certain point. I think he'll take his boat to the river and enjoy himself for a while, and he deserves it.
After you won a title, what'd you do to celebrate?
I worried about the next title.
Man, you were just too boring, weren't you?
Well, maybe, yeah, but, you know, I look back on my career, and I have no regrets, and there was a lot of guys that were shooting for me, and, you know, I didn't have the luxury of riding around like Jeremy is right here. Most of the time I had somebody breathing down my neck to the last turn, and I think if I had looked back on anything and it would have changed something, I just would have savored some of those wins a little bit more, really appreciated them while they were happening instead of focusing on the next race.
Would have had a little more fun, in other words.
Yeah, well, I had plenty of fun hanging with O'Mara. You know you're going to get a stomach ache from laughing somewhere during the time together. We had a great time at Honda, and things are, I think, a little different in racing now. It's a little bit more serious, a lot more money at stake, and although Jeremy seems to be having fun, I think it's a little bit more business, and you know, I'm just happy to be part of the era that I was, and I think you're looking perhaps at the end of an era here with Kedrowski perhaps retiring. That's the end of all the guys that, you know, the Stantons, and other than Bradshaw's return, Bale, a lot of guys are gone now, and Jeremy's the new kid on the block, and looks like he's going to be here for a while.
The new king. What's going through his mind right now? You got any idea? I mean, you said you never had this luxury, but if you had, what would you be thinking about on this final lap?
Oh, you're just thinking that the title's yours. You're going to take that number 3 off your plate and replace it with a number 1. You know that Honda's going to be happy. You know that if there are any negotiations that need to be redone, they're going to. You definitely got leverage, and you know, just keep it on 2 wheels for a little bit longer. Enjoy the crowd, and think of something good to say to Art.
Yeah, I'm sure that right now, as Jeremy McGrath focusing on his final turns, he's thinking, you know, what am I going to tell Art Ekman whenever he sticks that microphone in my face?
Well, that's a great opportunity to plug sponsors and to thank friends and all the people that helped get you there. Although, I mean, this title has looked inevitable for the last 2 or 3 weekends, so it's not like this is a huge shock like it was for Lamson today to win the title.
Oh, there you go. I wondered when we were going to see that. I wonder if he's got anything else left in the bag.
I'm wondering what he'll top the knack with next. You know, he might take a hand or 2 off the handle, but who knows what this kid's capable of.
Then we'll have to rename it. Call it the Knock Knock. Knock Knock, who's there?
Well, Jeremy McGrath for sure in 95. He's been dominant. He's won indoors and out, and I don't think he needs a knack. It's just his riding ability.
There's the checkered flag, and Jeremy McGrath has done it. He swept. In fact, the last 4 motos this season, he has come away with the wins. Jeff Emig comes away with a 2nd place finish in Moto 2, followed by Dowd, Larry Ward, and Mike Kedrowski, who announced his retirement earlier. And as you take a look at the top 10, Art is with Jeremy.
Well, Jeremy, your 11th motocross win of the year. That's a phenomenal feat with 26 motos all told. But are there any new worlds you're thinking about conquering now on 2 wheels?
Well, I got the World Championship Supercross Series coming up, and I get a few weeks break. I'm going to take a weekend off, and then I got to go to Italy, and then I have 6 weeks off. So, and then after that's the World Championship. So I got some races to do, but I'm going to take them with ease, you know, kind of cruise, have some fun.
You're not going to follow Jean-Michel Bale then in the road racing?
Oh, no, not just yet anyway.
Skip, you got any questions for your rider?
Do I have a job next year?
Well, that's a dumb question.
The championship team getting together to smile big as the family surrounds them here, ending a terrific national season.
And some great racing today. McGrath, of course, won 1 overall, followed by Dowd. Jeff Emig rallies to a 3rd overall. Then it's Kedrowski and Larry Ward. Lewis Dobb, Lawrence Duback, and Krein round out the top 10.
Hey, big fella.
Hey.
What are you thinking?
I'm just thinking next year, you know. I didn't really have a whole lot of enthusiasm, you know, there in that 2nd moto. You know, I wanted, to put in a good moto in there at the beginning. I just didn't really feel comfortable, you know, and I guess, you know, I just wasn't really focused, you know, in like what I have to do. And I mean, I congratulate Jeremy. You know, I mean, when you get that momentum, you know, it just makes things that much easier. You know, and it seemed like that I was, that I was going upstream, you know, all year long, and you know, especially here today. I mean, I definitely didn't have the day that I wanted to have.
Here's a look at the final point standings. The top 5, McGrath winning the title by 60 over Jeff Emig, who had a great year his first year on the 250. And Phil Lawrence, a great year. He gets the $5,000 bonus as the top privateer of 95 from Skull and Camel. And Jeremy McGrath, of course, picks up the #1 plate for 96. We certainly enjoyed bringing you the 95 season. For Art Ekman and David Bailey, I'm John Kernan saying so long, everybody.